Hi, I'm Rachel, 48, from Denver, Colorado. The day my mother-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made." She expected me to look embarrassed. She expected me to lower her head. She expected me to stay silent like I always had. What she didn't expect was that 5 minutes later, a secret she'd helped hide for nearly a decade would be exposed in front of everyone who mattered. And once the truth came out, nothing in that family would ever be the same again. The strange thing is, if you had asked me years earlier whether my marriage would end in divorce, I would have laughed. Not because it was perfect, but because I believed commitment meant working through problems. I met my husband Daniel when I was 27. He was smart, charming, and had a way of making everyone around him feel important. At first, life felt simple. We built a home together. We worked hard. We welcomed our daughter Emma into the world. For a while, I thought I had everything I needed. Then there was Linda, my mother-in-law, the woman who spent more than 20 years trying to convince me I didn't belong in her family. The first warning sign appeared before Daniel and I even got married. At our engagement dinner, Linda raised her glass and smiled. Then she said, "I just hope Rachel understands how lucky she is." Everyone laughed, but something about the way she said it bothered me. Over time, those little comments became impossible to ignore. If I got promoted at work, Linda would say, "Well, someone must have liked her." If I hosted a holiday dinner, she'd point out everything I did wrong. If Daniel complimented me, she'd quickly remind him of something she had done for him. Nothing was ever enough. At first, I tried to earn her approval. I bought thoughtful gifts. I included her in family events. I listened patiently to criticism that no one else would tolerate. But approval never came. Instead, every effort seemed to encourage more criticism. The older Emma got, the more obvious the tension became. One afternoon, when Emma was 11, she asked me a question I never forgot. "Mom, why does Grandma always talk to you differently than everyone else?" Children notice things adults think they're hiding. I smiled and told her not to worry about it. But deep down, I knew she was right. The years passed, and slowly, Daniel started changing. At first, it was small things. He worked later, spent more time away from home, stopped defending me when Linda made insulting comments. Then one day, he started agreeing with her. That hurt more than I can explain. I remember one family dinner in particular. Linda spent almost an hour criticizing the way I was raising Emma. When we got home, I expected Daniel to tell me his mother had crossed a line. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Maybe she's just trying to help." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just dealing with a difficult mother-in-law. I was dealing with a husband who would never stand up to her, and that changed everything. The distance between us grew. Arguments became more frequent. Conversations became shorter. The warmth we once shared slowly disappeared. Then came the day that shattered whatever was left of our marriage. Daniel sat across from me at our kitchen table and calmly said he wanted a divorce. Just like that. No counseling. No serious discussion. No effort to fix anything. Just divorce. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. 22 years together. Gone in a single conversation. The divorce process moved surprisingly fast. Too fast. At the time, I was overwhelmed with grief and didn't think much about it. Looking back, there were signs. Daniel seemed unusually prepared. Paperwork was already organized. Financial records were ready. Lawyers had been consulted. It felt less like a decision and more like a plan that had been waiting to happen. Meanwhile, Linda acted as if she'd won some kind of competition. Through relatives and family friends, I heard the things she was saying. According to her, Daniel had finally escaped a miserable marriage. According to her, I had made him unhappy for years. According to her, everyone had seen the divorce coming. Those rumors hurt, not because they were true, because they weren't. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to tell people my side. But eventually I stopped. People who wanted the truth would ask for it. The rest had already chosen what they wanted to believe. So instead of fighting rumors, I focused on rebuilding my life. And honestly, that decision saved me. The first year after the divorce was difficult. There were nights I cried myself to sleep. Days when I questioned everything. Moments when I wondered whether I had somehow failed. But little by little things improved. I focused on my consulting business. I took risks I never would have taken while married. I accepted projects that required travel. I expanded my client base. I worked harder than ever, and it paid off. Within a few years, my income had doubled. Then it doubled again. I bought a beautiful home. I traveled to places I'd always dreamed of seeing. Most importantly, I discovered something surprising. I was happier. Not immediately, not dramatically, but steadily. The constant tension was gone. The criticism was gone. The feeling of never being good enough was gone. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Meanwhile, Daniel's life wasn't unfolding the way everyone expected. His career plateaued. His relationship with the woman he started seeing shortly after our separation seemed unstable. And yes, people noticed how quickly that relationship had appeared. But I stayed out of it. I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted peace. Then came the event that changed everything. Emma's engagement party. She was 26 years old. Successful, kind, confident. Everything a parent hopes their child becomes. The event was beautiful. Friends and family gathered in a private event space overlooking downtown Denver. The atmosphere felt warm and joyful. For a few hours, everyone behaved themselves. Even Linda. At least that's what I thought. As the evening progressed, people began sharing stories and congratulating Emma. I was standing near a table, talking with some of her future in-laws when I noticed Linda staring at me from across the room. There was something strange about the look on her face. Almost triumphant. I should have known she was planning something. A few minutes later, she walked directly toward me. Several people turned to watch. Even after all those years, Linda loved an audience. She stopped a few feet away and smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile someone wears when they think they've already won. Then she said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made." The conversation around us instantly stopped. You could almost feel the room freeze. A few people looked uncomfortable. Others looked curious. Linda glanced around, clearly enjoying the attention. Then she continued, "He wasted years trying to make that marriage work." I saw several guests exchange awkward looks. Emma hadn't heard yet. She was across the room speaking with friends. I could have responded. I could have reminded Linda of every cruel thing she'd done over the years, but I didn't. I simply looked at her and took a sip of my drink. That seemed to irritate her even more. She stepped closer. "You should be grateful he finally moved on." The silence became unbearable. Then something unexpected happened. A voice spoke from behind us. "That's an interesting version of events." Everyone turned. Standing near the entrance was a man I hadn't seen in years. Michael, Daniel's former business partner. The moment Daniel saw him, his expression changed. His face went pale, and suddenly I knew something was wrong. Very wrong. Michael wasn't smiling. He walked calmly toward the group. In his hand was a folder. At first I didn't think much about it. Then I noticed Daniel staring at it. Almost nervously, Linda crossed her arms. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Michael ignored the question. Instead, he looked directly at Daniel. "Do you want to tell them, or should I?" The room became completely silent. Daniel swallowed hard. No answer. My heart started racing. Tell them what? Michael slowly opened the folder. And that's when I realized this wasn't a coincidence. He had come for a reason. A serious reason. Michael looked around the room. Then he said words that changed everything. Rachel wasn't responsible for that divorce. Whispers immediately spread through the crowd. Linda's confident expression disappeared. Daniel looked trapped. Emma finally noticed the commotion and started walking toward us. Michael continued. For years, people have been blaming the wrong person. No one spoke. No one moved. Everyone was waiting. Then came the first revelation. Daniel had been involved in a long-term affair, not after our marriage started failing, not near the end, years before. The room erupted with shocked whispers. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even process what I was hearing. Years? Michael nodded. Apparently, the relationship had lasted far longer than anyone knew. While I was trying to save my marriage, while I was attending counseling sessions alone, while I was being blamed for every problem, Daniel had been living a double life. Emma looked at her father in disbelief. Is that true? Daniel remained silent. That silence answered everything. But Michael wasn't finished. He revealed that he had discovered evidence years earlier while reviewing company records. Certain expenses didn't make sense. Certain trips weren't business-related. Certain payments couldn't be explained. Eventually, the truth became obvious. The affair had been carefully hidden, and someone had helped hide it. Linda. The room went dead quiet. Emma slowly turned toward her grandmother. The look on her face was heartbreaking. No, Emma whispered. Linda's eyes filled with panic. Michael opened the folder and removed several documents. Travel records, messages, financial records, enough evidence to destroy any denial. Linda knew. For years, she had covered for Daniel. When he claimed he was traveling for work, she backed up the story. When he missed family events, she made excuses. When I questioned strange behavior, she convinced others I was being paranoid. Suddenly, decades of criticism made sense. Linda wasn't attacking me because I was a bad wife. She was attacking me because blaming me protected her son. My entire body felt numb. Not because I still loved Daniel. That chapter of my life was long over. But because I finally understood how deeply I had been betrayed. For years, people looked at me as the problem. For years, I questioned myself. For years, I carried guilt that never belonged to me. And now the truth was standing in the middle of the room for everyone to see. Emma's voice trembled. You let me think Mom ruined our family. Neither Daniel nor Linda responded. All these years, she continued. You knew. Still silence. Then Emma did something I will never forget. She walked across the room. Past her father. Past her grandmother. Past everyone else. And she stood beside me. Then she took my hand. Mom deserved better. I felt tears fill my eyes. Not because of the scandal, not because of the revelation, but because my daughter finally knew the truth. In that moment, years of pain seemed to lift from my shoulders. The rest of the evening changed completely. Family members who had spent years believing Linda's version of events suddenly saw things differently. Some apologized. Others avoided eye contact. A few quietly left because they didn't know what to say. Daniel tried explaining himself. No one seemed interested. The damage was done. His carefully constructed image had collapsed. And once trust is broken publicly, rebuilding it becomes nearly impossible. Over the following months, the consequences continued. Relationships changed. Family dynamics shifted. People became far less willing to accept Linda's version of events. For the first time in years, she couldn't control the narrative. As for Emma, she created boundaries, firm boundaries. She maintained contact with her father, but things were never the same. Trust, once broken, is difficult to restore. As for me, I didn't celebrate. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't need to, because the greatest victory wasn't watching them get exposed. The greatest victory was realizing I had already rebuilt my life before any of this happened. I had found happiness. I had found success. I had found peace. The truth simply removed the last shadow from my past. Several months later, Emma and I were having lunch together. At one point, she looked at me and said, "I wish I had known sooner." I smiled and reached across the table. Sometimes truth takes time. She nodded. Then she said something I'll never forget. But it always finds a way out. And she was right. People can hide the truth, delay it, deny it, bury it beneath excuses and lies. But they can't erase it forever. Eventually reality catches up. Eventually masks fall. Eventually people reveal who they truly are. The day my mother-in-law proudly declared that leaving me was the best decision her son ever made. She thought she was humiliating me. Instead, she accidentally created the moment that exposed everything. 5 minutes later, the secret she spent years protecting finally came to light. And in the end, the person she tried hardest to destroy wasn't me. It was her own family's trust. That was the real price of the truth. And sooner or later, every lie comes due. Don't forget to subscribe if you love these stories. Before you go, tell me in the comments which US city you're watching from. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.